Welcome to Speaking of Entrepreneurship, a podcast powered by the Center for Entrepreneurs at Cuyahoga Community College's Corporate College. Here, we dive into real conversations with industry experts, innovative founders, and business leaders who share their insights, challenges, and strategies for success. Whether you're launching a startup, scaling your business, or just exploring the entrepreneurial mindset, this is your space to learn, adapt, and thrive.
So happy to meet you. It was a summer day. You just moved in and you just arrived. Your feet were just barely on the ground and you hit the ground running, and we got to meet each other on day 3. And I was at Tri-C when I met you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the importance of really galvanizing the community from an economic perspective.
Well, you taught me a set of words when I was speaking to a group of ministers and you were listening in. And at the end of it, I was talking about workforce development. You said, we need to talk about workforce innovation. And I haven't forgot that it is all about the innovative spirit within all of us. And whether, as an educator as you are, as a public sector official as I am, or a coach that I've been in my past, I think it's always about working with people to help them reach what's inside of them, and really, really maximize the potential of what's inside. So, when we look at our economy, and I did run on the issues of health, the health of our community, the health of our citizens, the health of our economy, the health of our justice system, the health of our climate, the health of our government. But you look at those indicators of health and you look at the economy itself, we are really, really rich in entrepreneurs in this community and small businesses. And, with that, I think we can multiply. And you look at, the workforce innovation that has happened, it's because there's a lot of interesting people in this town that are talking to one another about business development. And I think, again, we're blessed with our higher education in this town. You and then many of these colleges and universities in your midst, to have a big, small college town, if you will. I think we do have that here. And it's a benefit when it comes to helping people reach their potential and really scale to become innovators themselves and entrepreneurs. And again, I think in any agency, we're in a public sector agency at Cuyahoga County, but I'm always focused on innovation from within. And we've got an innovation team at Cuyahoga County that's looking for ways to improve things, or ways to make more efficient, just ways to do things differently. But at the end of the day, if your employees are entrepreneurs within, I think you'll find a happier workforce, and you'll find a much more productive, creative, and probably profitable outcome.
I love that. Talk a little bit more about the entrepreneurs, because you're going to have a lot of entrepreneurs listening, but also other business types listening, and how they can actually grow and expand and influence their business.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I wrote a college term paper and I titled it Entrepreneurship. And my neighbor next door, the apartments I was living at, they said to me, I think you got the word misspelled. I said, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a mistake. It was I, not E, entrepreneurship. But same ideas. Entrepreneurs within an organization. I think we really need to inspire that as leaders of organizations, to realize that everybody's got that leading edge within them. It's just about reaching them. I mentioned coaching earlier. I mean, a lot of this is about the strengths of each individual, kind of working out to be that 2 + 2 = 5 in an organizational setting. So I work and I have a large organization on your behalf of, like I said, over 4,000 employees. But that being said, I mean, we have mid-sized businesses where the same rule applies. Let's really, really ideate for better outcomes. Small businesses, maybe 1 or 2, sole proprietorships and other things. And then you taught me something else about the gig economy. That gig. I got my gig. I got my thing I do where I'm maximizing my own potential on my terms. So, I mean, it runs the gamut from larger corporations to small, mid-sized organizations to sole proprietorships to that gig hustle in the hustle economy. I would say for managers and leaders, we should never fear a new idea. The minute we start saying that's not how we do things, or we've been doing it this other way for years, is the minute we really frankly start to die as an organization, because growth comes from new ideas. It comes from innovation. It comes from changing tack to the changing times. I know that this organization itself at Tri-C, you focus a lot on the digital economy, and I love, I call my kids the digital natives. That's what they are. They're more comfortable in a digital environment than I am. But if I open my ears and listen to their skills and talents and put it to use, we can really do great things together, And so I think this is about leadership that listens, that inspires entrepreneurs from within, and this entrepreneurship we're talking about, and also realizes that it's not for us to say this isn't how we do things or this is how we used to do it. It's about what ideas do you have about what could be next for us.
Well, there's power in what you're saying because it's not that you're just saying it.
Yeah.
For example, in your recent State of the County address, you mentioned the need to provide support and assistance to small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Right.
So could you elaborate a little bit on what Cuyahoga County is doing to support entrepreneurs?
Well, Cuyahoga County is interesting because we're at the fulcrum of the inside world at our county government and the outside world of the communities that we serve. So I try to apply that. I try to apply a internal, innovative way about us, and I really do love our innovation team. These are people from within cross-section of departments in Cuyahoga County who volunteer literally to collaborate on process innovation and produce results that I get to listen to every quarter and implement with my team about their findings. But outside of the county government, that's about making a healthier county government that serves you. Outside, it's about a healthy economy and how do we actually lead to better outcomes for our own economy. You do it at Tri-C. What I've tried to do, and I made good on a campaign pledge, was to recognize the 30,000 plus small businesses that are in Cuyahoga County. Not just recognize them, talk about how can we give flight to those that exist, and also give help deliver a new company and birth a company by giving some startup monies and seed monies and things that give better access to capital. So we started the Office of Small Business. It was something that I pledged to do. It's in my wheelhouse. It's a passion. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. In an earlier day at Cuyahoga County, I opened a division of employer resources with the county commissioners. But the Office of Small Business was very simple. How do we help current businesses scale, and how do we help new businesses arrive, scale, and thrive? So sometimes it's as simple as, hey, I need some seed money. I need startup capital. I've got barriers to entry in the capital markets. County can be a bridge to that. We can do things a little differently. We can do a lower cost of capital. We can do more flexible loan terms. And it pays wonderful dividend because there's the multiplier effect of income, which brings more goods and services to the economy and more purchasing within the economy. So I thought it very important that the public sector engage with the private sector through this Office of Small Business.
I think that's so powerful. And ultimately, as you think about this work, how are entrepreneurs and small businesses in our county contributing to the region's success, as from your perspective?
Well, you kind of already referenced it, the gig economy. One thing I mentioned, that Office of Employer Resources. When I worked at the county years and years ago, before I was an elected official of the county, I worked for the Department of Development. And the reason I asked my bosses, then the county commissioners, could you work with me to start an office that is about employer resources, is because it's a two-way street in workforce innovation and development and our companies. We need to continue to be letting our companies in town know that we are a partner to them. Yes. And we also need to let our workers know that they have an upward mobile shot to move up in the trajectory of income and growth in their own lives. And a lot of that is kind of the government can sometimes be at the fulcrum of that between workforce and working shops, places that people are seeking work. I wanted to say something about that era that I was in before. We came off of, I think, a very crass titled initiative, but it was a federal mandate under the Workforce Reconciliation Act. It was AKA, otherwise known as Welfare to Work. Yeah. What really was inspiring to me, being a part of that on behalf of the county commissioners, was seeing people actually endeavor in the gig economy like you're talking about. People were moving into employment opportunities. They may have been creating daycare shops. They may have themselves only had one barrier to entry to create that shop, and that was affordable access to daycare itself, right? So we found when we were working the Welfare to Work initiative, there were three main issues: education and work training, daycare, and transportation. If you could provide and work with our community to get all three of those, great things were happening. So what was happening? People were becoming entrepreneurs once they were covered on the basics of had daycare, had transportation, and they were creating in their own way their own gig economy. And I just love that. So I turned around and said to the commissioners, as we sort of closed out the workforce reconciliation demands on us as a county, I said, now we have to support the businesses that we've helped grow and help them with some worker training dollars. So our county Department of Development gives up to $5,000 to employees. We pass through federal funds through the county to give to employers for training. And that's a real live operation right now at the county. Encourage people to call for those dollars for training, because training dollars pay tremendous yield. As you know, somebody comes out of Tri-C with their degree, their associate degree or otherwise, they come out of here, and your specialty programs you have, like the Entrepreneurship Center, tremendous dividends on that investment you make in the future. I think is your, at least your mantra of many mantras has been where futures begin, right? Yes. I love that. I mean, this is where futures begin, and it pays great dividend to invest early and see that multiplier effect thereafter.
I mean, in like fashion, we have to continue to make sure that people, businesses specifically, are taking advantage of what you are offering, what Tech Cred is offering, and other efforts in this space. One of the things that we're doing at Tri-C is that we have an economic inclusion program that actually reaches out to those minority women-owned businesses, to the people that are from Cuyahoga County, so that they can actually know how to navigate the opportunity. Yes. Can you talk a little bit about how we, as different actors within the ecosystem, have to ensure that the pathway is available for those different folks?
I think the intersection of equity and economics really make for a whole economy. If you can find a way that this economy, I was just talking to a student about this morning, can really, really come out as a inclusive economy, as an all-in, we're in this together, we're going to see great things happen. I'm inspired by mayors. One, Carl Stokes, who I met years ago, who said change comes in inches in this town, to me at a coffee shop when I sat with him. And that's why I met with the student this morning, because now I'm in a public sector role, but Carl Stokes gave me a chance. And I had a coffee with Carl, and he changed my life because he said change comes in inches. And it haunts me in this town, because on the one hand, I wondered, when that was his walk-off line the last time I saw him, was he saying that you have to methodically work to get things done, or was he just saying it's frustrating how it takes so much time to get things done? Well, in any event, I took that and I said, I want to get into public service and I want to move things faster. Change happens at the speed of trust. So if people don't feel they're a part of the economy, if they don't feel included, and this isn't about inclusive growth, if they don't feel that we're really intentional about inclusive growth, then they're not going to trust you. And then change is going to happen very slowly, right? But another mayor that I am fascinated by historically, who I did not meet, was Maynard Jackson, the mayor of Atlanta. Sure. And you know the history well, but Maynard Jackson literally went about the business of creating an all-inclusive economy, and particularly for communities of color to be able to enter into what were previously barriers into the market economy. And he did that with the wonderful airport that now bears his name, but with contracts and teaching and skill building and contract development among communities that had been disenfranchised in the whole government public sector buying process. Well, now look at Atlanta. It's like, to me, it's one of the meccas of a diverse economy of business owners that are of all races and faces at small size, mid-size, and large companies. But it started years ago with a public sector leader who said, we can do this together. And so I feel very much that the intersection between equity and economy is exactly where we need to be. When we figure out that it's a whole economy, when everybody's participating, we can do great things together.
And it's also fueling ambition.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, oftentimes it is not that people are not ambitious, but you can't have raised ambition if you are not aware of the opportunities and you don't have assistance to navigate the complexities of opportunities.
I think you're so right about that.
Once we get there, we actually can raise ambitions. We can actually fuel that innovative spirit that you talk about, which is so critical for focusing us on the future.
I agree. And I think one of the things that we need to continue to drill down in this community is mentoring. Is showing persons pathways, not just, hey, here's a path, get on it. It's let's do it according to how you see it, tailored for your life. But what exposure matters, to students, especially coming out of Tri-C, of our Cleveland schools, of our local universities, to see, again, I had the same student email me back today and said, would you consider a letter of recommendation for an internship this summer? I said, of course. We need our students to see what working opportunities are for them, and then they'll forge their own path, but exposure matters, right? So I'm a big fan of internships and mentorships, and I always say to my interns and fellows in my office, I'll work for you someday. Someday in my older days, I'll work for you. So I just think your point about communication and opening up doors and messaging about the opportunities is of paramount importance. We have an incredible foundation in Greater Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, City of Cleveland, and Greater Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. We have 30,000, businesses here, entrepreneurs, shops, small businesses in Cuyahoga County. But we have philanthropic,
Yes.
foundations. We have core competencies in manufacturing, healthcare, IT, construction, growingly, and many others. And I think we've got this base to build off of that is a legacy of innovation of decades now, centuries ago, that built this ecosystem of a diverse economy. I mean, Cuyahoga County is truly one of the diverse economies of North America. I mean, it is not dependent on any one thing. I'm fascinated by the rebound of Detroit because I love that city. I've loved it all the way through my life. My dad used to take us there when we were young kids. And to see the city of Detroit pivot and innovate and be a city of entrepreneurs, but also seeing big companies like Ford Motor pivot and innovate on its innovation trajectory as it's getting into electric vehicles and other transportation transformations. It's fun to see because this is a town that I think, and it's part of its dip was that it was a sort of one-horse town of automobile, right? And as outsourcing and offshoring happened, they slipped, right? And there were other things, but they slipped. But they've gained traction all over again. So I'm fascinated by Detroit. But Cleveland always actually had a leg up because we had a more diverse economy. And there was areas where people of all different specialties could work in. But I think you hit the nail on the head earlier. It's also about messaging about opportunities, and it's about being intentional about inclusion.
So where do we go from here, given the assets that you've discussed and sort of the collective spirit of hope?
Yeah.
But tangibly, do we have to do? And to what extent will entrepreneurs play a role in the development of the next iteration of who we are?
I think we should continue to look at economic development as organic, that we should build off of the strengths we have and the core competencies that we have. And we have an incredible platform. Our healthcare industry is huge. Now we're seeing innovation happen in the merger of IT and healthcare. As Dr. Cosgrove used to say about the Cleveland Clinic, yes, we're a patient care provider, but we're also a technology company. I mean, in seeing things like MyCharts and other things that we're advancing that now help many other institutions and organizations. That's just one example. Seeing Canon's Medical Academy, that's Canon, we've known as Canon Photography, is now a medical imaging company as well. Well, they just opened a training center out in the eastern suburbs, right down the street from here at Tri-C East, because the build out from the Cleveland Clinic and UH and others was natural, right, in Metro, that we have a healthcare economy here. Let's build the technology side of that out. So they're teaching people from all over the world imaging, trade and skill. And our hope then is they stick around, right? Organically building off of the base of what we've got, I think is the better way to go than going out to try to, as I say, bag the lion. When there was a big fight for Amazon HQ2 years ago, this town put in its bid. Of course you have to. But that's a once in a very blue moon opportunity. We'll get faster if we grow off of what's already working and expand on that and get more people into those opportunities who then, if you have entrepreneurship within a shop, you might find spin-off opportunities and spin-off businesses that come from your own employees.
So this idea that if we better empower what we have, the cumulative effect of that investment is really credible for our movement forward. So what are some of the unfulfilled needs that the county might have, and how do institutions like the Center for Entrepreneurs or Corporate College help address some of the gaps? How do we help you do the great things that you're doing?
Well, one, I think you're already doing a great thing in your framework, Dr. Baston, that you have obviously integrated into the ecosystem of this college. But, this idea of workforce innovation. I think you're right. I mean, we've talked workforce training, workforce development, but this is really about meeting people where they're at with their own tailored skills and needs. It reminds me a little of like a Montessori education program. I'm a public school kid as a kid. I have no kids in the program like that, but I've heard a lot about it working in University Circle over the years. The idea with a Montessori-based system is, to kind of reach into the potential of every student according to what they love and what they're good at, right? It's also this new pedagogy of like not everything is a graded transcript per se or graded letter graded program, but it's mastery. It's about getting to subject mastery. I think that's revolutionary in education. That if I was a algebra student in my sophomore year in high school and my neighbor at the next desk was an algebra student and they got it in a month and it took me 3 months to get it, why not give me the time to master it rather than close the books on me and say, time for the test. You're not ready, but you're going to take that test. I'm using that as an example because I think what we need to do with people is say, hey, you tell us what's within what's within you. What's your passion? What's your interest? What do you think you're good at or could be good at? I think you do that very well. And I think this college association of you does this very well. And so you asked, what do we need to do or what should we be preparing for? I think some of the things you've already said are what we need to focus on is messaging about opportunity, making students and others aware of opportunities. And that goes across the economy. That's for persons re-entering into our community. If they've been in incarceration, that is about getting to kids at a young age in their high school to say, here's some career opportunities. May not be, in the end, higher education for them. It might be moving right into a skilled trade environment or something of that nature. But working with people to meet them where they're at with their own hopes and dreams, but also making sure that we communicate kind of where are the job opportunities out there, what's the sort of trending skills needed, and what's the trending job opportunities. And we're really, really socializing as a community what we need. I think the blessing and the curse of the digital age we're in is on the one hand, you can reach large groups of people like we are today, and you can reach them fast. I think the curse is sometimes it's like instantaneous and there's not enough time to nurture the idea of what are we actually talking about. If I go talk out here about, well, there's jobs in phlebotomy, and somebody picks up and says, okay, what's phlebotomy? Well, why don't we spend a day with the science community at the Cleveland Clinic or UH or Metro and learn about what phlebotomy actually is. So it's not just telling people about opportunities. My daughter's a high school junior and spent the day at Metro Health today, following nurses because she's interested in health sciences. It's got to be about exposure and experiential learning. And I think you do it well. We just need to work with you to scale it up even further.
And I think that's such an important thing. Even here in the Center for Entrepreneurs, you can take a foundational course to get your appetite wet. You can go through our different programs, exploratory track, all the way up to our 10,000 Small Business Program. We have about almost 1,000 graduates over the last decade. And those small businesses now become mid-sized and larger businesses because they got the skills and the training and the support that they needed. And it's important for us to continue to say that there's not just one way to contribute to the economic landscape anymore. It's not just a traditional 9 to 5, Monday through Friday in a cubicle downtown with you work there 45 years and then you kind of retire, you get your little golden watch and Sparky runs in your backyard until you die. It's like it's not that anymore.
That's right. It's not I'm going to be necessarily the same company for the next 40 years. It's about, I always said, what's your framework? I go like this with my hands because what's in this framework? You may not be in the same job on a 40-year trajectory, but you might be in the framework of what you love to do over those next 40 years. So you might zig and zag in jobs within the framework, but what is it you're passionate about? How can you make your avocation your vocation? I always say to students, particularly, if you love what you do, you're never really working, right? Because if your hobby's your job, then it's not really a job. It's a passion.
Well, I have to tell you, what an extraordinary opportunity to spend some time with you, our county exec. You have a real vision and a passion for the people of our community. One last thing. Tell the folks out there, if they want to participate, those entrepreneurs out there that want to participate and help you advance the agenda of our county for our people, give them a word of encouragement.
Yeah, well, I want to say to you, we definitely need your ideas. We need your innovation. Come work with us out at Cuyahoga County. There's a number of ways. I mean, again, speaking of the digital age, we do have ways in which to reach you digitally. But we also once in a while will have community meetings and summits about hand-to-hand, what can we do together? I think the more we learn about what each other is doing, the better. I'm inspired by some of the socializing that's happening with our summer associates. There's a get-together that happens with all of the students that are in the colleges and community colleges that are here in the summer, and to ideate with one another and with firms to understand what possibilities are out there. I guess I say to those that are developing skills, educating themselves on what their next chapter is going to be, explore our Cleveland community, the cultural community, the corporate community, the entertainment community, everything that we have to offer, explore it, because you might pick up some things about some opportunities. I also say to our companies that are out there, give a student a shot. Give a student a shot for a internship. Give a student a cup of coffee like I did today. Make sure that we're present and proximate and listening, one, to what they think their needs are, but also we might learn something about where we're going tomorrow because they know a little something about today and tomorrow that we may need to catch up with them on. So I guess my operative to your point is Cuyahoga, stay together, connect, and to the companies out there, spend time with our students. Our foremost challenge, Dr. Baston, I think, is retention. I really think it's about keeping people in this region. And that starts with socializing ideas and opportunities to give people hope. And ultimately, they find their purpose to be a part of that hope building for others. This is a great region with great resources, a great foundation that we stand on. And it's really about connecting the dots and leveraging what we have.
Well, we have an awesome leader in Cuyahoga County, our county executive, Chris Ronayne. We so thank you for being with us today. And I'm glad that you were able to tune into this episode of the wonderful podcast where we bring extraordinary leaders who are doing extraordinary things. If you're an entrepreneur and you're considering starting a business, I encourage you to reach out to the Center for Entrepreneurs or the corporate college. Together, we can continue to foster a thriving community and drive economic growth. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more insightful discussions. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for tuning in to today's podcast, brought to you by the Center for Entrepreneurs at Corporate College. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow entrepreneurs. Tune back in to stay connected with us for more insights and resources to help you build, innovate, and thrive.